Annenberg Media.
With additional support from Equicor Equitable HCA Corporation, the Good Listening Employee Benefits Company.
We do not all start life on an even playing field. But the rules are that we all play it by the rules of honesty and ethics.
Before I took that case, I had to agree that I would do anything ethical to defend that man.
So I'm going to just do the best I can. Is it imperfect? You bet. Is it awful? Well, maybe so.
Isn't there a point in a civilized society where one man has to be willing to step outside the system and say, no, I cannot do this because it's wrong?
I think we're at that point, which is nice in the sense, ethically, where we don't have the rules to protect us. We have to agonize with ourselves and our conscience.
In August of 1945, I flew in a reconnaissance plane at low level over the devastated city of Hiroshima. I shall never forget what I saw. Dropping the atomic bomb was one of the most awesome military and ethical decisions in all history. There were thousands of people involved in the development and delivery of that first atomic bomb, yet it remained one of the best-kept military secrets. All of the participants kept the classified information confidential. A leak from one of them and the course of history might have changed. When someone agrees to confidentiality, we expect him or her to keep the secret no matter what, whether it's a strategic action ordered by the commander-in-chief in Washington, as was Hiroshima, or a limited tactical operation ordered by a platoon leader in the jungle. And what if the secret is a dishonorable one? Is it still ethical to keep it? The hypothetical case study you're about to watch begins on the battlefield. It's a little picture. An American soldier attempting to save members of his own outfit is trying to force Scarface, a captured enemy guerrilla, to reveal secret information. First, we'd like to show you some highlights from part 1 of this program.
And lo and behold, you're my drill sergeant.
I got you.
What do I expect the first day?
A day of misery. I'm going to break you down. I'm going to make you afraid of me. I'm going to make you understand that discipline is the bottom line. And I'm going to make you understand that what I say is law.
But I, as the officer, am not going to tell the men that they will murder prisoners, that they will kill wounded.
I'll hit you with the butt of my rifle, and I will tell you to go up that hill or I'll shoot you.
I'm not going.
In that case, I've already given you the order. I told you what would happen if you didn't do it. We're under heavy fire. All these thoughts are going through my mind. The men are looking at me. I've got stress that is unbelievable, but I've got to take that hill. I'm going to kill you.
He's got to protect his troops. He's trying to take that hill, and he's got to do what's necessary to do it.
For the American people to understand that this is the kind of thing that can go on under wartime circumstances, the American people are entitled to see it. Young people, parents, Washington, the Pentagon. I cannot see how you keep from broadcasting it.
We think we're doing moral things for a moral government. We do not want to be represented as doing something immoral, and very often that's the way the presentation comes across.
You walk out into the alley, and there you see Scarface, the guerrilla who was responsible for killing men in your unit 2 nights ago. He's got a gun, and he notices you about the time you notice him. He raises his gun. What do?
I shot him first.
I would do what I would have to do, and what that would be would be another of the secrets that I will live with for the rest of my life.
Our moderator again is Charles Ogletree.
We decide that we can't kill Scarface, as well as 6 other guerrillas that we find, that we need to take them back because they have information about some of our soldiers who are missing in action. And in fact, you have orders, Lieutenant Downs, to interrogate them, to find out where our soldiers are, and to try to rescue our men. What would you try?
Whatever's necessary. I would get that information if it meant the lives of my men, or some American men somewhere, and you can make any man talk.
How?
Torture, if necessary.
What kind of torture?
In varying degrees, depending upon what you're trying to get out of them, and you test them first. There are a number of ways that you go about torturing someone to get information, but you don't torture them right out from the beginning. You explain the situation to them. And since you already have orders, I already have orders not to kill them, because that would be useless anyway. It wouldn't get any information out of a dead man. But time is of the essence, I assume.
Yep.
Yes, I think I could get that information out of them.
I don't want to talk. What would you do?
I'd use the materials at hand to make you talk. And
a deep voice? A stern word?
No. First I'd beat up on you a little bit, if you hadn't listened to reason.
I've gone through basic training in North Coast. I can take a little beating. It's no problem.
You're dealing with a platoon leader who has just suffered a lot of casualties going up a hill. I don't care about your life, and I'm going to make you understand that. And if you don't particularly understand it, by the time I get done with you, there are 5 other guerrillas who will understand it, because they're going to see what I do to you.
What are you going to do?
Oh, I'll beat you up for a while. There are particular techniques, maybe with a knife or fire. Depends on how desperate it is. Depends on me, how I feel, how my platoon feels. This is a torture. To talk about it this way seems cavalier, and it's not. But you have put me in a situation in which I'm the one who must get the information. I cannot take them back to regular interrogators. Is that correct?
Right.
This is an enemy soldier, and the results that I can get out of him will save American soldiers. With me and my platoon, there is no doubt whose life is most valuable. This is not a pretty situation you've put me in, but this is a situation in which I've been ordered to get results, and the results to me are of the highest value, which is to save my fellow soldiers, and I'm going to do it. If I have to kill you to prove a point to the other 5 guerrillas, I may go that far.
Mr. Jenkins, you've got the assignment.
First of all, I'm not sure you can make everybody talk, even under torture. There would be no torture. There may be psychological pressure. I can't guarantee that people wouldn't be shoved around, made to feel fear, but to in any way systematically apply torture in order to get information, no. And it has nothing to do with the lives of my fellow soldiers. It has to do with principles and laws. And if some soldiers are going to die, even my own comrades, because I'm going to make a decision to obey those laws and to uphold those principles, then so be it.
Father Hehir, is there any way to explain this, that the likelihood that torture may be a part of the job of a soldier?
I think there's a way to explain that torture may happen in warfare, but that's a descriptive explanation, that it can happen. Lots of things can happen in human affairs. If you ask whether it ought to happen, that is to say, the question that's being addressed here, seems to me, again, Mr. Jenkins had it just right. And I think Lieutenant Downs got at it a little bit too. When you torture somebody, it isn't just the other person that is affected. You do something to a human being that does it to someone else. you expand that argument up the chain of command. That is to say, I've got an order, and because I've got an order, I will do anything to fulfill the order. You push that up the chain of command, and you get not just torture, but in the late 20th century, you get a kind of warfare where there are just no limits at all, because there are all kinds of orders that can be given. So the first thing is you do something to the torturer as well as the person tortured. Secondly, our men are taken prisoners. We want some restraint on the other side about what they do to our men. Once it becomes clear that anybody's got an order can do whatever they want to do, or their perception of the order, what are you going to lodge against the other side when your own men are held prisoner? When you start to discuss whether torture ought to happen, you need to look at not only what you do to someone else, but what you do to yourself, and then secondly, what can happen to your own people, because you've now set the rules where there are no limits.
But I also don't think that a soldier, knowing that his fellow soldiers are out there someplace, are going to be left behind just because he didn't have the intestinal fortitude to bend a rule, perhaps a law made in the sanctions of hall someplace, because you do need law in war to keep people under control. But there are times, and I would make the determination that this is one of those times in which the men, those POWs, are more valuable to me than 5 or 6 guerrillas. And since we're talking about how we act and then how the people would react in response to us, in my study of warfare, the other side tends to always not care what we think about how they torture and treat our prisoners. And so I know that these POWs are going to go through a sort of hell and torture of their own. But in this instance, it is my decision, and that is what I will live with, because I think I have the moral strength to live with myself afterward if I'm successful in retrieving these POWs. To me, that will be success.
Admiral Service, you troubled by what Lieutenant Downs is telling you?
I don't think you can be a moral military man and not be troubled by this particular predicament.
Admiral Service, wait a minute. Yeah. What's going to save Downs' men is putting this guy in a bucket of water until he's about to drown. What's going to save his men is hitting him with a rifle butt until he's willing to talk. What's going to save his men is putting a torch to his behind until he's willing to talk. That's what's going to save his men. Can we use those tactics or not?
Well, it's an imperfect world, isn't it? And it's like the lieutenant says, you've got to live with yourself. When it's all over, at least we try and create people like that. Given the bottom line, as absolute as you paint it to me, and if I knew that by getting that information, and it was the only way to get that information, and the time constraint was such, my probable choice would be to get it by whatever means I could. I'm working for an ethical entity, or I represent. I have to assume that the information or that ethical entity that I'm going to represent my country in is that somehow or another what I do for them will be viewed as ethical. So I'm going to just do the best I can. Is it imperfect? You bet. Is it awful? Well, maybe so. And as the lieutenant says, you got to live with it. So as repugnant as it would be, that's what we'd be getting down to.
General Westmoreland?
We are signatory to the Geneva Conventions, and from this is derived the rules of ground warfare, which is translated into rules of engagement. And the idea of a lieutenant taking the responsibility, which Downs presumably presumes to take, to threaten POWs, prisoners of war, to attempt to, in an amateurish way, to interrogate them, to abuse them, is totally contrary to what he was taught when he was a non-commissioned officer and when he was a lieutenant. And it's repugnant to me to have him make suggestions to the contrary. Now, In the fit of battle, the high emotions, certainly people do irrational things. And that's why you have officers. You have officers who we hope are psychologically stable, who can make these tough decisions under great pressure, under great tensions. But there are always exceptions. And I'm afraid that some of this discussion has created an impression that this is tolerated, it's not anticipated, and this is the norm. It's not the norm.
It's very easy to sit here and to say what we would do and wouldn't do. You know, I'm opposed to torturing prisoners, but I'm not sure what I would do. My honest answer is, if I were the lieutenant and 6 of my men who we'd trained together, they depend on me for their lives, we're brothers, I'm their father in every respect, and under that circumstance, what action I would take. I mean, the intense pressure of the moment with guerrillas who really are not under the Convention of War agreement, not wearing uniforms, don't deserve the same as an enemy in uniform. I'm not saying they deserve torture. In that case, and if I thought that I could save 6 of my men, that would be a terrible moral dilemma for me. But honestly, I can't say that there aren't conceivable circumstances in the heat of battle where there are a lot of deaths that I wouldn't do something that against my moral principles. You know, I don't know.
Okay. Well, Major Stewart, this is your last day in North Kosan. Your unit's going home. Well, you welcome back to the camp. You see a group of what appear to be North Kosanese, men and women, some in guerrilla outfits, some not. And you see 2 American soldiers, a lieutenant who has the same rank that you have, and a private. You see also 2 people who appear to be North Kosanese lying on the ground. You're 400 yards away, and they appear to be dead. And the only people who appear to be armed are the 2 American soldiers.
I guess I'd swing by to see if they needed any help.
Okay.
Find out what was going on.
Now, you're armed. Are you going to pull your weapon or do anything about the fact that you're armed?
It would appear that the U.S. military personnel have the drop on the situation, so no, at this point in time, I'm not concerned for my own safety.
You walk up to me, and I'm that lieutenant, and I'm interrogating another North Kosanese with a gun at his head. What do you want to say to me?
I'm probably going to ask you what you're doing.
I'm trying to get information. These people won't give me the right answer. These people know, I am sure, who was responsible for killing 10 of my men last night. And I think they know where the guerrillas are, and I'm going to get the right answer.
What questions are you shooting at this guy? What's
Give me the information. Where is your leader? I'm counting to 5, and I want an answer.
What's the enlisted man doing?
He's standing right there next to his lieutenant, shaking in his boots.
And now I know that there are no arms.
That's right.
4 dead.
Yes.
Where were they shot?
In the head.
Now I would pull my weapon.
Why are you pulling a weapon on me, Lieutenant?
I would order you to put the weapon down, and I would order the enlisted personnel to take you into custody.
I'm not giving up my weapon. These people are responsible for killing my men. And if they don't answer by the time I count to 5, another one will die, and then we'll get some answers.
I would try, if I could calm you down, to give you some sane explanation of what we've been talking about here already.
I understand all you're saying, Lieutenant. I'm giving this person till 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. You stop me?
I hope that I would have the moral courage under those circumstances to pull my weapon, drop on you, and give you the same ultimatum. I don't know if I would or not. That's what I would hope I could do.
1, 2, 3, 4. You shoot me?
I may, yes.
And why?
It's nothing more than murder, pure and simple.
But what is it when you're killing me? A lieutenant, another soldier.
Who was in the process of violating the law breaking the law of war, and perpetrating murder with no apparent motivation to stop, no attentiveness to reason, no ear for a fellow lieutenant trying to talk him out of it, cool him down. Yes, I may be forced to do that.
Okay, well, let's change the facts slightly, Chaplain Tatum. Forget about Major Stewart. I'm G.I. Joe, and I come back to the encampment, and I want to talk to you. Can I make a confession?
And this is going to be privileged communication.
Yes.
Okay.
Will it remain privileged?
It'll remain privileged.
Everything I say will remain in confidence?
That's right.
We were out on the battlefield today, and it's just crazy, but Lieutenant just went off. We came into contact with some North Coastinese villagers, and he was furious because we had lost 8 men yesterday, as you knew. The lieutenant came up on the North Coastinese, and he ordered me to shoot him. And I told him it was wrong. I told him I didn't want to do it, but he made me shoot. My conscience was bothering me. And I just wanted to let you know. Will God forgive me?
I think God will forgive you, but I wouldn't stop there.
What do you mean?
I would advise you that what you did was against the laws of land warfare, that you obeyed an illegal order, and we have laws and regulations concerning that, and I would do my best to talk you into turning yourself in.
Turn myself into who?
To the military authorities.
To tell them what I did?
Yes.
You just took me by the hand and told me that what I said was confidential.
That's correct.
And that I could confess. I want my soul to be clear. I can't do that without turning myself in. What about the lieutenant? This guy probably killed me if he finds out that I'm telling on him. Who's going to protect me?
We'll see to it that you get protected.
You guarantee that?
I'll guarantee that.
I just can't take that chance in telling that information. Is that okay?
It's not okay, but I'll let you leave.
General Scowcroft, you started to hear rumors in the camp that a lieutenant has killed some innocent civilians. And the rumors suggest that Chaplain Tatum knows who's responsible. Do you want to talk to Chaplain Tatum?
Yes, and I'll say, Chaplain Tatum, I understand the privileged communication which you have received, but as I understand the whole nature of confession absolution, that one has to attempt to set the situation right. And I hope you haven't told this man, it's all right, God will forgive him, because he's not trying to set the situation right.
I would probably say to you, General, you're right in that I spent a long time counseling the individual, would probably remain nameless, concerning the situation, concerning God's forgiveness, and that it's necessary to set things right. But he has chosen not to do so. And that privileged communication in the military is very important and critical, I think, to our future existence, that the soldier has someone that he can go to and bare his soul to without any fear that that person will then take that information to someone else.
I agree completely with you, and I'm not suggesting and not trying to get you to violate it, but I hope you would at least indicate that he may go straight to hell if he doesn't try to set the situation right.
I can make you this promise, General. I will continue to work with that individual to help him see what is the correct thing to do.
Father Hehir, who's right here?
Well, if General came to me on someone who had come to me in confession, I couldn't even acknowledge that I'd heard the confession. In other words, if he said to me, I know something about what you've heard, I would say, General, I really don't know what you're talking about.
But you do know what he's talking about.
I know what he's talking about, but confession is privileged in a way that I cannot even hint of what someone's told me in the confession. If the General says to me, Chaplain, how do you handle cases when people come and do X and Y, I'll tell him how I handle a case. If he says to me now, Chaplain, there's this word around that somebody's talked, they say, General, who won the World Series? I mean, I just would not, I would not allow him to know whether anybody had been to see me or what they had said.
What if you got the information? What would you do with it?
I would put the lieutenant on trial and the enlisted man.
What are you going to tell him about where you got the information? Are you going to tell him that I went...
Oh, I'm not. I'm assuming I'm not going to get it from the chaplains.
What if you did?
If I did, I'd use it.
You'd use it?
Yes.
Even though it's part of a confessional?
Absolutely. It's not... I don't have to respect the privilege committee. No, I don't. That's not part of my ethic. It's a part of the religious ethic. I would not violate that. But if I got it, then I'd use it. Absolutely.
There's another question. Can the institution live with what he did? And it's the institutional, the confessional, that's always at stake when you have an individual case. No matter how urgent and overwhelming the reasons are in the individual case, if you crack the confidence in the institution of the confessional, you're finished. If you crack the confidence in the institution of the military, that they tell people to torture, or that they look benignly on people torturing, then you endanger the institution. It isn't enough for an individual to say, can I live with something? The institution has to ask, can we live with it? If we allow it to happen and don't indicate that that simply is, it is impossible.
And you've got to make sure that the investigation is not just a local investigation. You've got to cover-up is the worst thing we can have. We've found that in the My Lai incident, and the American people deserve to know, the leadership deserves to know. So I think for the institutional purpose, it's got to be clear that we believe something happened and there's a full and objective investigation to get to the heart of the problem, even though our leads are almost zero as to who did it and under what circumstances.
Well, we're getting to the investigation. General Foote, this is your investigation. What happens to the lieutenant who shoots and kills North Costanese civilians that's reported by Major Stewart?
What would I do personally?
Do you have any reluctance to recommend that that lieutenant be court-martialed for killing innocent civilians?
I would have no reluctance whatsoever, because to kill innocent civilians, you are indeed murdering. That has nothing to do with their military mission. Someone has taken an authority above and beyond that which they are given as an officer and created a crime. And this is reprehensible behavior, and it cannot be condoned. And the swifter action that's taken in such cases, the better.
What about the private? The private who we learn after some time killed a civilian without cause, but he killed because he was following the direct order, although illegal, the direct order of a lieutenant. What would you do with that private?
Again, I think this soldier would also have to be recommended for court-martial. But in those proceedings, I think evidence that could be introduced in mitigation or extenuation in his behalf, after all, here he is a private, scared to death in war, with a lieutenant who's armed and telling him to kill also, a lieutenant who seems to have lost control. There may be some extenuation here for his behavior, but it is still murder.
I don't want extenuation. Right. I responded to the order of the lieutenant to kill an innocent person.
That's an unlawful order.
Why are you going to recommend court-martial for me?
That's an unlawful order.
I'm following orders. He's a lieutenant.
We would hope that the soldiers that we have in the Army would have the good common sense and the intelligence to discriminate between that which they should do in pursuing lawful orders, in fighting, in meeting the enemy, in attempting to kill the enemy if this is necessary. But have the discrimination to know that when you're ordered to kill someone who is a non-combatant, then you are indeed violating the law of land warfare. You're violating the code of conduct. You're violating every ethic that our nation imbues a person with when they put them in a combatant's role. That's a very responsible job that young man has.
Well, what when Lieutenant Downs told me in basic camp, basic training, when he told me before the first battle, when he told me when the soldier turned against us, taking the hill, when he told me when we were torturing North Costanese in the village, he told me that my job is to be obedient and follow orders. That wasn't a complete answer. He should have told me that my job is to follow legal orders.
That's right.
And I, G.I. Joe, no high school, nothing beyond high school, very limited potential. I'm supposed to understand a legal order from an illegal order.
Again, this is why you would bring this to a court. To air the entire complexity of the situation, the young man's story would receive a full hearing. He himself could be a witness and bring anyone who had had the same type of training and experience with Lieutenant Downs.
Now, what about Major Stewart, who had to kill another officer because that officer was killing innocent civilians? What would you recommend?
In his case, there would be a full investigation, but I think he would have done his duty. If you cannot stop an officer who is in the process of murder and they do not respond to voice warnings to cease and desist, and this is the only way to stop the action, then you have to have the courage to take that action.
Mr. Jennings, this is the next wrinkle on this hypothetical. You can safely go with a North Costanese unit, and they're going to show you atrocities being committed by South Costanese. And you're interested. You're curious about why are we at war? What are our allies doing?
When you first told me some days or weeks ago that war had broken out, I had made an enormous effort to get a reporter into the North Costanese theater.
Wait a minute, that's the enemy. That's the enemy. You're going to send someone over there?
I am very interested, as a news organization, in having all perspectives. And if I can get a reporter, particularly an independent reporter, we've been in circumstances before where we've been obliged to take reports from the other side, from less than independent reporters. If I can get an independent reporter in North Kazan, you bet.
General Westmoreland, what do you think about that?
No, Peter, I admire your courage.
It's stupidity in my case, General.
Well, perhaps it is. No, if you want to stick your neck out and jeopardize your safety by trying to go behind the enemy's lines, assuming that the enemy is in the United States and you are a U.S. citizen, if you want to take that chance, well, you're on your own. The military has no authority over you whatsoever.
Oh, we understand that, General, and we both know that in wars, including Vietnam, it's happened. And we also know that reporters have died in the process.
Correct.
Do you have any other problems with it other than his safety, General Westmoreland?
No, I'd be interested, frankly, in his observations when he gets back.
You'd like to see the tape yourself, right?
Well, perhaps he could provide some important intelligence, but I think it's quite hypothetical. I don't think this would ever happen.
Well, let me just point out again that it has. I mean, it happened in Cambodia, and we lost reporters. It happened in North Vietnam. We didn't get Americans into North Vietnam, but we got third country nationals into the North Vietnamese side of the conflict, and those reports did on occasion appear on the television screens of the United States, Western Europe.
I'm unaware of that.
Mr. Jennings, so you've got the chance to go with the North Costanese unit, and of course they are going to show you the atrocities by the South Costanese. But, as fate would have it, they aren't able to get there because there's skirmish, there's some confusion, and in fact, the North Costanese are about to ambush a unit of South Costanese soldiers.
I'm afraid to say that I really think, as a reporter, and I hope this is taken as the hypothesis it is, as a reporter, I really think you make a commitment going in, that you understand going in, that the possibility exists that you may come upon a South Costanese unit. You also make the decision going in that the possibility is you will come upon an American unit. My feeling would be, as a reporter, that you'd have to make that decision before you went, and that if you're in, you're in. I mean, I live in fear, of course, of coming upon an American unit, as well as a South Costanese one. But
if you've made the decision, you would film the North Costanese shooting the American soldiers.
Well, I guess I would. I guess I wouldn't. I mean, I'm going to tell you now what I'm feeling rather than the hypothesis I drew for myself. If I was with the North Cosanese unit that came upon Americans, I think I personally would do what I could to warn the Americans.
Even if it means not getting the live coverage?
Well, it would mean my life, and I don't have much doubt about that, I think. And I'm very glad this is a hypothetical. But I do not. I do not think I could bring myself to participate in that fashion. That's purely personal. Other reporters might have a different reaction.
Mr. Wallace?
I think some other reporters would have a different reaction.
Such as?
They would regard it simply as another story that they are there to cover.
They're going to cover enemy soldiers shooting and killing American soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Could you imagine how they would report that to the American people?
Surely I can.
Could you do it?
Would I do it? I'm an old man. I don't know that I would. I find it very difficult to believe, and I'm astonished really to hear Peter say that. You're a reporter. Granted, you're an American, but you're a reporter covering combat between North Kosan, South Kosan, and the Ally. And I'm a little bit at a loss to understand why, because you are an American, you would not have covered that story. I mean, when we go back to Vietnam, there were all kinds of reporters who did indeed go in to Hanoi, wanted to go to Haiphong. Everybody wanted to go there. Why would a reporter say, I'm not going to cover that because I am unhappy about what's happening there?
It's not unhappiness, Mr. Wallace. It's, don't you have a higher duty as an American citizen to do all that you can to save the lives of soldiers rather than this journalistic ethic of reporting the fact?
No, you don't have the higher duty to, no. You're a reporter. Your job is to cover what is going on in that war. People know that Americans are getting killed in that war. Lord knows it's a hypothetical. I would probably, I'd get on the horn with Peter and say, what the dickens do you mean?
Yeah, I think he's right too. I chickened out. I mean, I played the hypothetical very hard, but I think he's right.
I think they've got the same problems that Downs has.
What's the problem, General Scowcroft?
I think the problem is the situation, the job, as opposed to a higher cause. First of all, I think you're Americans first and you're journalists second, just as I think that Downs is, sure, he's a unit commander and he's got these terrible ethical problems, but we do live by rules in this society, rules of right and wrong, even situationally in the broad sense.
General
we
Scowcroft,
can't get away
what
with
in the
things
world
like
is wrong with photographing this attack by North Kosan on American soldiers?
Simply because, what's it worth? It's worth 30 seconds on the evening news as opposed to saving a platoon, what have you. I mean, what difference does it make on the evening news? You see some Americans get killed.
In other words, what you're saying is that the reporter should say, hey, hold it, fellas, Americans, these guys are about to go after you, and you die. That's really what the question is here.
Yeah.
And your answer is?
I don't know.
You see, and I agree with Mike intellectually, and I really do. And I wish at the time I'd made another decision, but it wasn't the one I made at the moment. I would like to have made his decision.
General Westmoreland?
Well, it's rather repugnant to me, and I think it would be repugnant to the American listening public to see on film in the United States an ambush of an American platoon by our national enemy. The conclusion that would be drawn is that the network is in cahoots with the enemy.
Generally, the question is raised actually in the cities of New York, in the cities of this country, in which you say, if you knew that a murder was going to take place ahead of time, would you cover that story? Or would you let the object of that murder know? Or would you let the police know? I think, and I've answered this question before, I think But I would surely not let the man or the woman be murdered. I would let the authorities know. And then you say, all right, under those circumstances, now move it over into war. And it's like, I'm going back and forth as I sit here. I understand all of the stresses and strains that are going on. It's a hell of a dilemma to be in. I think
You're now Lieutenant.
Calling me back, Mike, I hope, to tell me it wasn't such a stupid decision.
The same problems Downs has in different...
Well, that's what I'd like to object to. I want to
Are there
object
different
to,
standards here?
Yeah, well, no, there are different kinds of issues here, though. I think it's really unfortunate in ethical terms to confuse the Downs case, the torture case, the killing of prisoners, and this particular case. They're both moral cases. In the Downs case, we are saying that torture and the killing of prisoners are a violation of something that never should be done. Now, that's a negative argument. It says you should never kill the innocent. You should never torture. And at least the case Lieutenant Downs was building was that he, in principle, could kill the innocent or torture under given circumstances.
Under certain circumstances.
Okay, under certain, but I mean, it is different moral case when you have an affirmative obligation. That is to say, an affirmative obligation is the question of should you try to do your best to protect American lives? Or how do you balance your affirmative obligation to protect American lives and your affirmative obligation to report the news? That's a moral choice. There really are different kinds of moral questions here.
Major Stewart and Colonel Connell, I can see the venomous reaction you're having to hearing this.
I think what we're asking the reporter on the scene to do is keeping in mind that that individual is not a combatant. We expect our combatants to do in the normal course of their duties that which is heroic at all times. We are now all of a sudden charging the reporter with doing the heroic when that is not. Maybe for them it's super heroic to jump up and yell and scream and warn the Americans. I think that that's different, however, than that which we expect of ourselves while in uniform and in a combat situation.
Colonel Connell?
I feel utter contempt. 2 days later, they're both walking off my hilltop. They're 200 yards away, and they get ambushed, and they're lying there wounded. And they're going to expect I'm going to send Marines out there to get them. They're just journalists. They're not Americans. Is that a fair reaction? Yeah. Can't have it both ways.
It's a fair reaction.
It's a fair reaction.
But I'll do it. And that's what makes me so contemptuous of them. And Marines will die going to get a couple of journalists.
Representative Gingrich?
First of all, I think you put the journalist in an extraordinarily difficult situation, as Colonel Stewart said, Major Stewart said. I'd want to go back for a second to what Peter said, with all respect, about his technology and his profession. On your own network, I believe, the night of the raid against Libya, I believe you were talking live with the reporter in the hotel room who said, I think we're in the middle of a bombing raid, I'm going to hold the telephone outside on the balcony. Now, I think all of us have to confront then three things. There is no World War II environment where suddenly you say, we're all Americans. Nobody's going to tell the Nazis we're coming at Normandy. We're in a chaotic, small war environment, and will be, I think, for the rest of our lives, particularly if deterrence works. Second, the technology is exploding around us. I mean, it may not, maybe amateurs. Hi, I've got a dish satellite receiver and I got a mini cam. Would you like to buy some stuff? Third, I don't think we're very good right now, and I think this panel, I found it fascinating, at deciding who are we? Are we Americans first? Are the South Koreans then ours? Is it as bad to see our friends and allies get killed as to see our own children get killed? What does it all mean? I think we're right at the cutting edge in this discussion of the technology, of the reality. And all I would say is that the military, I think, has done a vastly better job of systematically thinking through the ethics of behavior in a violent environment than the journalists have.
Congressman Stokes, that's a pretty powerful statement.
It is obviously a very troublesome ethical dilemma, but I think it also has a great deal to do with where the media places its priorities. In your hypothetical, in the first place, when Peter went up on the north coast and east side, obviously he had made some type of decision there. He certainly wasn't going to take pictures up there with the North Coastalese of the South Coastalese trapping them. Obviously, the reason to go up there was to get the type of a picture that he got. And so he had made some type of decision, it seems to me, when he first went up there. This is something that it seems to me, not the military's problem, but the media's problem. They have a problem of trying to set their priorities in terms of whether they're journalists first or they're Americans first. I don't think that's something that we can solve for them legislatively. That's a professional decision that they're going to have to come to grips with.
Admiral Service, I'm the president, and I am very unhappy with what's going on in North Kosan. We're losing men, I'm losing the morale, losing public opinion. You're in charge of a Naval Air Force unit off the coast of Kosan. The South Kosanese have informed us that the North Kosanese are building a base. That base has facilities to manufacture weapons, supplies, and other materials. It's a communications network. Now, I want you to strike that target.
Sounds like a good one.
Just bomb the whole thing?
What the hell? Let's go after the whole enchilada. You know, all of those people can inflict damage on us in one case or another. They are the enemy.
We even got some icing on your cake this time, Admiral Service, because in this instance, there is an extra benefit from bombing this air base. Major Madness is the leader of the North Kosanese, and he's a cult figure for the guerrillas. And our intelligence tells us that Major Madness every day gives an inspirational speech broadcast throughout North Kosan from that base at 12 o'clock. And he's there every afternoon. He's never there in the morning. Now you have a choice to make, and you have the option of deciding whether to strike that base at 9 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I probably, without violating any confidences here, I probably have a way to get to him if I know that he is that predictable a person.
I'm taking that option away from you. That's my prerogative.
That's not fair.
All's fair in love and war.
All right.
What you going to do?
I don't know. What's the weather?
There's no risk whether you do it at 9 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, well, we're going to go at 3 then.
Why do you choose 3?
Oh, well, listen, there's the bigger package. It's Christmas time. We're going to get Madness in his headquarters.
You have another option. Major Madness is not on the base. He lives in a compound off the base. He's there with his wife and his children. He's giving his broadcast every day. Will you bomb him? His wife
yes.
and his children?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be bombing his wife or his children. I think once again we get it down to the collateral business and what is what is up to me. You know, in this particular case, I think the guidance would be very clear about what I would get.
Take him out?
Yes, I think that's exactly.
Even if it includes his family?
Oh, I think so.
And his children?
Yes, yes. It doesn't matter if he's married. That's not the dilemma.
Well, is he a military target?
Oh, yes.
Because he's the leader?
Yeah, based on your description to me, he is a military target.
So that means our president's a military target?
Oh, absolutely. He's the commander-in-chief. He couldn't be you couldn't find a better target.
Well, that was a great try, but your air raid failed. I'm the president. General Jones, I need some help because we are losing this war. You remember when we had our last meeting of the Joint Chiefs, you talked about the nuclear bullet. And the nuclear bullet is a backpack device, a nuclear device that one man can carry into an encampment like that, set it up, and the only damage would be to that base. There's no larger damage. But I want to use a nuclear device because we have to put a stop to our losses. And I want your advice as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs as whether or not it's reasonable for me as the president at this point to change this war to use that nuclear bullet.
I'd recommend against it.
Why?
I think that escalation is not warranted in this case.
There's no likelihood of damage to anyone beyond that base, and it will be a decisive factor in our ability to win this battle with the North Koreans. This is it.
I don't believe it will be as absolute in decisiveness as you state.
I'm convinced of it, General, and I'm ordering you, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to carry out this order.
The National Command Authority consists of the President and the Secretary of Defense. The first thing I would do was get with the Secretary of Defense. I'm glad he's General Brent Scowcroft, because I've got great confidence in him.
So do I, but not as much as you have. That's why I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to you.
I'm talking to him.
I'm not letting you talk to him. You're not leaving the Oval Office until you give me an answer. You are going to take my order and carry out this mission, or you're going to resign. And if you won't do it, I'll get a man who will.
I'm not going to resign.
You're going to carry out the order?
Nope. You can fire me. I want this to be fully discussed in the National Security Council. The nation, I think, expects it when they gave you the sole authority to make a decision on the use of nuclear weapons, that it be something that is pondered in very carefully in this country, and not just one individual being convinced that that is the thing to do.
What if we go through with it over your objection?
Well, first, I assume you fired me.
Yep.
My vice chairman, I am confident, will act the same way I will.
I'd have to fire you too, General Meyer?
You'd have to fire me too. I may just decide I was going to retire or resign.
General Scowcroft, can you help me out on this?
I think it's a political stupidity, not a moral issue. I would be inclined to resign because I think the implication of using nuclear weapons under these circumstances has such global ramifications that it would be an act of gross political stupidity. I wouldn't give a nuclear weapon this moral kind of aspect to it, but I think it has political ramifications that make it the wrong thing to do, and I would resign publicly.
Can I comment just for a second?
Yes.
I think there's a mix here that I'm not sure whether it's moral or what it is. I mean, I think the fire bombings in Tokyo were worse than Hiroshima. I think Dresden was worse than Nagasaki. But the world has now invested the concept of a threshold with a moral bearing. We would lose all of NATO the following morning. We'd be kicked out of Germany. The implications for our capacity to function as a society, for a president stupid enough, and I think on occasion we've had them, to do what you're suggesting would be so horrendous, it would so fundamentally violate all of our underlying basis of freedom, that I would hope that they would all resign. I would hope candidly they would first, and this would happen within minutes. I suspect literally news of the resignations would reach the field faster than the orders could be transmitted down the chain of command.
Assume that it's approved by President, Congress to use this nuclear bullet, and you could safely place that nuclear bullet at this airfield. Mr. Downs?
Yes, I would do it.
You'd probably be happy to do it.
No, I'd say before we end this thing, I got something I have to say to you all. Put this all in context from an infantryman's point of view, at least from my infantryman's point of view. We've discussed here what a lieutenant goes through, and I think a lieutenant who has to make these kind of stressful decisions, even though they were highly stressful for the purpose of this conference, you have to understand one thing. This is one man by himself. He must make these crucial life and death decisions. He has to have a higher ethic, a higher morality than people who do not make these decisions. and then he must live with them afterwards. And so from an infantryman's point of view, whose value is to return home to his family, if he makes a decision and it's split second, it's combat oriented, then why is that less moral than a man who would make a decision to drop bombs which kill unarmed soldiers and or civilians, and that is thought to be a great thing? And I think this must be taken in consideration in discussion of ethics and morals, and whether someone who, like this lieutenant who sounded like he made some ruthless decisions, when all that was driving him was his personal morality and ethics in knowing that these decisions involved the lives of men, both his own and others.
So you're under orders, and you're under fire, and you're going to try your best to do the ethical thing.
That's correct. Without ethics, without morals, without control, you become a mob, your army disintegrates, and you lose your honor and dignity as a nation.
The question in this broadcast was whether loyalty sometimes requires keeping a vow of confidentiality, even when the secret is a dirty or a dangerous one. When the stakes are as high as they are with nuclear weapons, what is the ethical thing for a soldier to do? Next week, back to the courtroom. Several weeks ago, we looked at a murder trial, this time a civil case, where lawyers and judges battle over a deadly, defective product. Join us then for Truth on Trial.
This has been a production of Columbia University Seminars on Media and Society in association with WNET, New York. Columbia University Seminars on Media and Society is solely responsible for the content of this program, with additional support from Equicor Equitable HCA Corporation, the Good Listening Employee Benefits Company.
Annenberg Media. For information about this and other Annenberg Media programs, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org.